Hey guys, Sleepy J here, pregame.com. Going to go ahead and continue our NFL team previews. Got Mackenzie Rivers on this one with me today. We're going to go ahead, we're going to preview the New York Football Giants. We're going to look at them from a season win total perspective. Giants win total right now, 7.5 wins to the under here at minus 115. Mac, I don't know how you feel about this Giants team overall. I broke down the schedule, the offense, the defense. I don't want to say I'm super confident in my prediction, but I do have a prediction. Do you think the Giants can go ahead and do what they did last year or no?
I want to be pessimistic on the Giants because I didn't think they were that good last year. I want to have a vote of protest against the coach of the year. I don't think you can have a below average team by almost every metric, win 3 of your last 10 games, and be the very best coach of the year. I know they beat expectations. They weren't expected to do anything. However, I can only look to the over here because I don't see how this number could be any lower. They won 9 games last year. Coaches generally do better as they install their system, have more of a relationship with their quarterback, who's now invested for the long haul. Both the organization invested in him. Usually, you get investment coming back, in return. So this opened near 8.5, and now it's 7.5 flat in most places. You can even get minus 105 on the over. Um, that's the only way I can look because this seems almost disrespectful for a playoff team. Um, so I'm interested in your opinion. It sounds like you have a strong opinion on it.
All right, so you mentioned playoff team, and I think that it was almost a shoo-in that the Giants were going to make the playoffs last year. And it's not because they were a good team, it was because their schedule was an absolute joke. They had the easiest schedule in the entire league last year. And when I looked at the season win totals, like you said, it started out at 8.5, it's come down. I think the market is actually moving in the right direction because based on what I saw from last year, that team really wasn't any better than just an average football team. So I like the fact that the market has actually moved down here a little bit. I generally look to go ahead and fade teams depending on what the total is if you had the easiest schedule because at least Giants Nation, right? What are they saying, Mac? We were a playoff team last year. We could do it again this year. We got Saquon, we got Jones, we got this one, we got that one. Our receivers are going to be healthy. Like that's all fine and dandy, and a lot of that's true. Like you do have those players, but the schedule really matters. And it was completely easy for this team last year. This year, it's going to be much tougher. The miles that this team's going to have to travel, it's not going to be easy. And the teams that are actually coming into New York, there's a lot of short travel for them. So I think just travel miles in general, for and against, it's actually quite negative for this team. The schedule, I certainly think it's much tougher this year. That's got to be a negative. And you have to wonder, kind of like how these players feel when they looked at the schedule last year. Like they had to be excited because they were going, there's a win, oh, good travel spot there, da da da. Versus this year where they're looking at the schedule going, oh man, this isn't going to be as easy as we thought. The Giants' road situation this year, it's kind of tough because if you look at the schedule, like every game that they play on the road, it's followed by another road game. So it's nothing but back to back road games all year long. I do think that the Giants will circle a couple games this year that they're going to go and say, we're going to beat these teams. And I think one of them is certainly Arizona early on in the year. Probably the Commanders, maybe once or twice. They could probably beat Green Bay, I think. I think they could beat the Saints. Obviously, they could beat the Raiders and the Rams. Like, there are 6 or 7 wins on this team's schedule for sure. But again, we have to get to 8. And I think getting to 8 wins, I don't want to say it's tough. I think it could easily be done. They end up with a late bye week. I actually don't like that at all. And I don't think that their home schedule, which is you're hoping for some of the easier teams, it's not all that easy. Like they have a little bit tougher of a home schedule than most would think. So I think it's kind of a drastic difference from what they had last year schedule wise to what they have this year. But I don't want to say that they can't win 8, 9 games, and I could see 6 or 7. So it's not that I'm kind of on the fence. I think that once I talk a little bit about the offense, Mac, a little bit about the defense, I think my prediction will actually be a little bit more understandable. But just based on the schedule right now, I think the total's right. I think that's an easy way for me to say it.
You make a good point about the delta between last year's strength of schedule and this year's strength of schedule because people always say, okay, how good is this team? Do they have a harder schedule or not? But generally, our conception of how good a team is based on their last year's record and that's a function of how good their schedule was. So the fact that they had by far the easiest schedule, not unlike the Falcons this year, a bunch of cakewalks last year to get themselves to 9 wins. Now they have a middle of the pack schedule. That's actually one of the bigger deltas and is one of the reasons why they're expected to win a lot fewer games than they did last year. Where I'm at on the Giants is, uh, what makes their offense good and is it going to be sustainable? Like last year, Brian Dable comes in for the first time. He's known as Josh Allen's guy, very QB centric offense. And then this is the exact opposite almost, where there's a lot of Saquon Barkley's, probably the most important play in and play out person um, for them, in most games. And Daniel Jones is a little bit more of a point guard out there. So is that going to be sustainable? Did the league get a good look at that? Now against better defenses, are they going to be able to be the top? They were top 10 offense last year, and it was kind of like the New York Knicks, where it's like, wait, they don't shoot good. They don't have they don't have any wide receivers. Like, how are they a good offense? I don't think Daniel Jones is very good. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Certain Twitter accounts uh, disagree with me, as there is for most quarterbacks, but he was 30th before Brian Dable got there. Mike Sando did his list. He was 30th by the GM's assessment, and then he had 1 year with one of the handful of offensive minds that are people really paying attention to right now in Brian Dable, and he has a good year, not a great year, but a good year. Decent. I don't think that's necessarily a penchant for him to be, a franchise quarterback going forward, even though they paid him like one. Um, so like I said, I'm against this team, as a kind of like the Vikings, where it's like this team was never good. I don't want to hear about their wins. They're just not good, and I don't expect them to be necessarily better in a year. I mean, I guess Darren Waller, if he stays healthy, at one point was considered like a Kelsey Kittle type guy that could make a difference. Do you think that's going to be a game changing piece? I mean, we haven't really seen it in a couple of years.
I do. I think that you have to upgrade the offense for a couple of reasons coming into this year, Mac. One of them's Waller for sure, but two, like are we looking at the Giants wide receiver core from last year of what it was, because it wasn't good because nobody was healthy. Right now, I mean, people are projecting Waller to probably be like within like the top 6, 7 tight ends in the league. That's a very good tight end. And if their wide receiver core could stay healthy, I mean, they have Slayton, they have Shepard, they have Isaiah Hodgins, like guys that can't stay healthy and guys that were actually on the field quite a bit last year because they had to fill in. Like, I think you have to upgrade this offense. Now, I don't like the offensive line at all. I think that they're probably no better than maybe like 25th, 26th in the league. If they can get better and Waller fits in and the wide receiver core gets healthy and Saquon just goes out there and does Saquon, and Daniel Jones could build off the season he had last year, I think we have no other option but to upgrade this particular offense. So I don't want to say I'm high on this offense, but I went ahead and I upgraded them a little bit.
Yeah, so generally, like, I want to be down on this team, but the win total 7.5. Like, that's the simplest way to say it. The win total is either right or it's a little bit too pessimistic. Because if we do upgrade the offense, even with the tougher strength of schedule, they probably win 7, and then it's going to be that week 18. Are the Eagles playing anybody? Are they already resting everybody? It could get wonky. It's going to be right around the number, looking at their schedule.
I think the question mark for this team is actually the defense this year. Like, if you go back and you look at the teams that they played last year on the schedule, it was a lot of offensively challenged teams, a lot of teams with well below average type of quarterbacks, and I think the defense actually looked a little bit better than who they actually are. I mean, they do have a couple names in some spots, like an Adoree Jackson, you have Thibodeau, Leonard Williams, but it's just a couple names. Like, they're not elite, and then around them, it's really not much else. I think what the Giants have to do on defense this year is kind of like we were talking about in some of our other team previews, where they can bend but they can't break. But one of the things they have to do is they have to create more turnovers, because the offense last year, Mac, did a really good job of not turning the ball over. But it was the defense who didn't get enough turnovers. And I think if they can do that this year with a little bit of a bend and break type of defense, it's going to keep them in some of these tougher games this year. And maybe this could be one of those type of seasons where, the Giants come in here with a little bit of motivation based on what they did last year, an offense that has, a couple new pieces, some healthier pieces, a little bit of an upgrade. maybe they could rely on the defense a little bit to go out there and just not be the biggest liability for this team. I'm not sure how I feel about Dable honestly yet. I honestly don't know about that guy yet. I think last year might have kind of boosted him up because they beat a couple teams last year. I think they beat my Packers last year, and it was like, oh, like this guy's, he's really good, and this, that, and the other, and they ripped off a bunch of wins early in the year. But if you go back and you look at like the second half of their schedule there, Mac, it's not like they were out there beating, the best teams in the league. Like they had a streak of losses. I think they had a tie in there. Maybe it was against the Commanders. So it was like the first half started out so well, but the second half didn't really look all that great. So you just gotta wonder, like, if with the schedule as easy as it was, the second half going as I want to say as poorly as it did, I just don't know if I really believe in Dable yet. And I don't believe in the defense, but they got to bend and break, and they're gonna have to get some turnovers this year, in order to go ahead and remain in a lot of these games because it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, you make a lot of really good points, especially when you consider Wink Martindale, first year with the Giants, blitz heavy guy. They led the league in blitz. 40% of the time they blitzed. No one else blitzed more than 35% of the time. Most teams were in the 20s. Uh, and then you compound that with the fact that they're playing quarterbacks that really aren't ready to see that. Justin Fields was still, hadn't really broken out and played his best football yet. A bunch of their early opponents, and then you mentioned it, 3 wins in their last 7 games with a tie thrown in there against the Commanders. Think about all the hype that's on the Detroit Lions because they won 8 out of their last 10 games, and now they're favorites in the division. They're supposed to win 10 games. There's all this hype because of the second half of the season. People weigh that more. If we did the same thing with the Giants, it'd be a lot more pessimistic of a view. But that's kind of baked in. That's why they're not winning 8.5 games. That's why they're winning 7.5 games.
What I see when I look at this team, and I just kind of just take all the work that I did and just looking at this team on paper, I feel like it's a Jekyll and Hyde type of team. No matter who they play, they could play a good team and look really good, or they could play a good team and look really bad. I think there's going to be weeks where this team goes out there and they put up 30 points, and I think there's going to be weeks out there where they put up 10. I feel like it's going to be hard for this team to just remain consistent throughout the entire year. Making a prediction on this team, I lean to the under, but it feels like Mac, like making a wager right now on 7.5 under is the wrong wager to give out. Like we should have been on this on 8.5. When we did our team previews, this should have been one of the ones that we probably did first and caught that 8.5 and recommended that play at that time. So yeah, you know what? We're a little bit late to the party here there, Mac, but I think that we have to be honest. Betting 7.5 under now is probably not the way to go. I feel that's the best direction for our listeners to probably to go right now.
Teach a man to fish. I mean, if we get on here and say, 32 teams, I have 32 opinions on win totals, a lot of people are going to lose a lot of money. So I think you're spot on with your analysis.
All right, so
But we do have to have a best bet, don't we? Come on.
I'm not confident that the Giants will make the playoffs, Mac, and you can get that at like minus 190 on DraftKings. Like if you look at the NFC, you have multiple teams out there that are probably going to be pretty good. Like let's take like Seattle, San Fran, the Eagles, Dallas. The Saints are probably going to win their division. I think that the tough division here for the Giants to go ahead and get into the playoffs is going to involve a lot of the teams in the NFC North. Like Green Bay could finish with a better record than them. I think the Vikings could finish with a better record than them. Certainly Detroit. Like it feels like the Giants are only going to have one spot and one spot only to get in, and there's probably like 3-4 teams out there that might actually be a little bit better with a little bit more favorable schedules. So I feel like the Giants to make the playoffs no at minus 190. I feel like that's a bet. Like I feel far more confident in that bet versus playing this team over their season win total or under right now at 7.5.
I like this. I like this. This is good because the Packers took money this week. The Vikings took a little money this week. Bears took a little money this week. And the Falcons have been the most bet up team all off season. So we're kind of isolating the one team, the odd man out. If you look at the win total, they have the 11th highest win total. There's only 7 teams that are going to make the playoffs. No matter how bad the NFC South ends up being, if the Falcons end up being a pumpkin, it doesn't matter. One of them is going to make the playoffs. Then you got to be one of the 3 wild cards. And I don't see it for this team. I think they're very limited upside on their offense, even though Dable arguably worked miracles last year, and their defense was bad last year. And maybe it's better, maybe it's just about the same. But I don't see 9 wins, and I think that's unlikely to make the playoffs. I think you're probably going to need 10, and I don't see the Giants even getting to 9. So this makes a lot of sense. RJ gave out yesterday on Straight Out of Vegas AM Packers over their win total. You can still get it at minus 130, but that's been moving up. The Westgate I saw when I tracked the numbers moved from 130 to 140 just yesterday within an hour that I checked it. So yeah, I like this is called a derivative bet. We don't want to bet the Vikings after it moved. We don't want to bet the Falcons when we could have got 7.5 early in the process. We don't want to bet the Bears over when we could have got 7.5 early in the process. Same thing with the Packers. But we can still get the Giants at a number that it's been at for a minute to make the playoffs. No, minus 190. I like this bet a lot.
All right, so we'll go ahead. We'll give you guys that then. So let's screw the team total. You guys got a little bit of a preview, but it seems like it's going to be a little bit of a daunting task here for the Giants to go ahead and make the playoffs. So we'll give that out. So there you go, Mac. Does that warm your heart now that we provided a best bet for the people?
Absolutely. The value of the fish and the fishing tactics as we bring it all to the table.
All right, well, there you guys go. So there's another NFL team preview done for you guys. As always, guys go over to pregame.com. There's a ton of team previews over there on the YouTube channel and our video area. Mac has a ton of news articles up that is typed up for so many of these NFL teams. So if you guys are looking for NFL content, you guys know where to get it over there at pregame.com. If you guys are looking for a free bet, enter code pregame25 and you guys will get a free bet. Maybe go and get something for yourself for NFL Week 1 or College Football Week 0 that kicks off here tomorrow afternoon. So that'll be interesting. But with that said, I'd like to wish you guys all the best of luck. Enjoy the games. Hey guys, if you enjoy our content and want even more videos from pregame.com, hit that subscribe button right now. I promise you, you will not find better sports betting information anywhere else.